first one is going to be more of a me topic because it's a sales one, but obviously just chime in. Okay, so first question that I wanted to talk about today. This has actually come from a conversation I had last week, and someone asked me, Daniel, when I'm hiring a salesperson for my private function venue, what sort of characteristics should I be looking for? And it was a good question because if you're actively hunting for a salesperson, you want to be choosing the right one. So pretty much the answer that I gave him was probably try hire someone who has some industry experience in the hospitality space, right? Because this is a salesperson for a venue, and the venue was a winery. Okay, so Rob is going to go out and find a salesperson for the winery. I just said find someone who's got hospitality experience because it's very hard to raise the level of skill of a salesperson in a short amount of time. So focus on trying to find someone who's maybe a level 7, 8, or 9 out of 10 skill rather than someone that's like a 2 or 3 with the goal of training and upskilling them, because it's much easier to just find an A player or a B plus player rather than trying to find a B minus or a C player, hoping to get them to a B plus or an A player. So looking for previous industry experience is probably going to be the safest approach, especially if you're not willing to deal with the potential of the salesperson underperforming, damaging the brand, and maybe not closing as many deals as you want. And especially if you're paying money to acquire the sales conversations for the salesperson, it could potentially be quite bad. So rather focus on someone who has experience rather than someone who doesn't and trying to upskill them on the job. So that was my advice.
Yeah. And just to chime in there, I think it's something that we've experienced as well, which is you might think that you're really good at sales, and hence you could bring someone on that's not that good and train them up. But if you've never trained someone in sales, you have to learn a whole new skill set as well, and that might take a whole lot of time while you're training them, and you might not be that good at training them, and then you might find 4 months down the line, you're paying them, they're not closing any deals, you're spending half your time training them on how to close deals. So instead of going through all that pain, you can just hire someone who's got industry experience. And by industry experience, we mean not just hiring a salesperson, but rather someone who has done these particular types of sales, which might be in-person function sales for weddings. That's sort of what we mean by someone with experience, is someone that's done the type of sales that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I think that touches on the first point that we wanted to talk about quite a lot. Second point is when starting a function venue for the first time, it can often feel quite overwhelming because there's so many fronts that you have to fight on. You have to fight on the marketing front, on the fit out front, on the operational, hiring people. So what does it, I guess someone was saying, hey, this just feels like a lot, Daniel, all the marketing and sales and everything that I need to do. And pretty much the rebuttal that I said is yeah, anything worthwhile is probably going to be difficult. And if you deem this to be a worthwhile mission, it's probably unrealistic to think that it's going to be less than difficult. So I guess being comfortable with the fact that it is going to be difficult is probably a good mental space to start when you are opening a function venue or probably launching in any business. So yeah, essentially they were just saying, hey, this is overwhelming. And I just said, that's the way it is, right? I mean, What else are you going to do?
Yeah, and to chime in on that, I think from our experience, the most important thing to focus on is over-delivering for each one of your current customers that's coming through the door, right? Many great restaurants don't do any marketing. They don't have a super tight sales process. They don't have structure over everything. What they just do is they over-deliver. And when they over-deliver, every customer that comes through the door becomes an advocate. And so that advocate is doing your marketing for you and doing your sales for you. So if you already have a pool of customers, the most effective thing you can do is over-deliver for those customers. And then once you feel comfortable with that and your staff are doing that well, then you can look to marketing. Then you can look to sales. Then you can look to all these other areas. But if you're overwhelmed with trying to touch on all these things, I think a classic one that we get is I don't have customers coming through the door. What should I do? That's a scenario where maybe you want to look to marketing. But honestly, from our experience, if you've got no customers coming through the door, marketing probably isn't going to help, because fundamentally there should be locals who are willing to come through the door if you're good. And so often it's a bit of a tricky situation because we have to kind of come to the conclusion that like maybe there's not that many people in your local area that care about what you do, or maybe they do care but you're not that great at delivering on it. So to like cut through all the noise, the most important thing to focus your time on is over delivering on whatever service you're providing. In this case, it's, you know, let's say you're a restaurant, so over delivering on, you know, the customer service, the food, everything in that realm first, and then looking to marketing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, that sort of slides in quite nicely to the last topic that I had noted down on my phone, which came from another conversation I actually had last week, because all of these notes are from the conversations from last week, and it was talking about profitability. So if we are spending money on advertising to generate a private function or private event sale, so let's, for example, say I own a brewery, and the brewery can do, it's got space for private functions like birthday parties, corporate events, baby showers, whatever it may be. And they had the space and it was underutilized. So they wanted to get more people or more events within that space. And I said, look, you need to start running some ads to promote that space. And then you can see how many inquiries come from the back of your ads. And then you can see how many inquiries you need to close a deal. And then you can see I spent $200 on ads and I closed one deal for $2,000. And then the question was, hey, what if my cost of goods increase? Or what if my cost of advertising increases? Then I said, okay, well, how much profit do you make from a $2,000 sale? They said about $500. I said, okay, if your costs increase by $200, you might just need to increase the price by $200 to hold your profitability. So increase from $2,000 to $2,200. Very small increase, but maintains the profit margin. So it slides over to cost per acquisition quite nicely, but it's a concept not many people actually understand. And it is quite simple. Like, you probably have some thoughts about this.
Yeah. So like a big one is, you know, hospitality operates on razor thin margins a lot of the time. And so let's say you're selling a $1,000 function and you only have a 10% profit margin. You're only making $100. I guarantee that 95% of the time you could sell a $1,100 function to the same person and double your profit margin. So it's just as profitable as doing two. But you could triple your profit margin by charging an extra $200 instead of $1,000. You charge $1,200. And I think this just comes to people when they're selling or when they're pricing, they look to their market and see what other people are doing. And then sell at that price. When the reality is that most people who are buying a function have never bought a function before. They don't know how much it costs. So as long as you can over deliver on what they're paying, you can charge whatever you like. So, you know, we've got venues that might be charging $7,000 a function, and then a very similar venue might be charging $1,000 a function. And the venue that's charging $7,000 a function is always going to win because they can spend that money to acquire customers. They can spend that money to pay their staff more and hire better quality staff. They can spend that money to constantly over-deliver, and hence in the long term they end up winning. So just like a psychological thing when it comes to pricing is increase your prices, or at least play with the idea that you can increase your prices so that you can continue to over-deliver.
Yeah, I guess the fear of increasing your prices that people would say when they talk to us is like, yeah, if I increase my prices, people might not want to buy my stuff, and then I'll make no sales and we'll go out of business, which, I mean, it could happen, but if people are already paying let's say you're selling a $2,000 thing, increasing it to $2,200, that might double your profit margin depending on, you know, how you structure your margins and whatnot. But I guarantee probably not going to impact your sales at all. If you were going to double or triple your price, then you would probably start to feel some of those impacts, but an extra $200 or, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40% increase probably not going to do too much damage to the number of overall sales that you make. So don't stress about that. Just give it a go. You'll probably not feel any impact on your sales at all. So those are all the questions I wanted to talk about today. So yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Sweet.